Hi, I'm Jason with Nightly Creations. This week's video is going to be focusing on the Chainmaille Box Weave. We're going to take a normal piece of European 4-in-1 and fold it to make this box weave. So let's go over to the bench and give it a try.
All right, I see that you've made it here. We're going to be working on box chain, like I mentioned earlier. At the end of this video, you should have something that looks similar to this. This is our box chain bracelet. I used the rings that we made in the how to make your own rings video to do this. So just need a clasp, about 100 rings, and you'll be good and set. So let's go ahead and head over to the materials list and show you what you need. Okay, for the materials you want 2 sets of pliers. I'm currently using Xuron Bent Nose 486. You want a length of European 4-in-1. This is the same 4-in-1 that we made in the last video, but you can start your own if you didn't watch the last video. And then you need a set of rings. Have probably about 30 or 40 here, but to complete this bracelet you probably only need about 20. All right, let's get started. All right, so we've went ahead and opened those rings that I showed earlier, and we have our European 4-in-1 bracelet that we were working on in the last video. If you recall from the last video, I made it to where the spine of this European 4-in-1 was brown and the edges were gold or a pale yellow, depending on how you look at it. And that was simply for visual aid. Once again, I'm going to be adding with purple rings, and this is purely for visual aid. This is not meant to be a stunning, colorful bracelet. It is just meant to help you see what I'm working with. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So to start, let's go ahead and open a ring. And what we want to do is basically duplicate this middle ridge, and we're going to fold this European 4-in-1 basically kind of like a taco and add the rings. So let's go ahead and just get started with adding a purple ring on the very end here and closing it. Okay, I'm going to scoot this down so you guys see perfectly in video here. So, and what we're going to do is, you see it's just doubled up. It doesn't really have a good purpose other than at the very end you'll kind of see what we're going for here. So we're going to fold this up. So you can put your index finger down, push, and fold. And you can see that it creates a little V. Each one of these is creating just a little bit of a V. And so this is what we're going to use to add our rings into. So to help out, the rings that are on the outside, basically the ones that fall freely, these are the outside rings. These are the inside rings. The next one up is the inside ring and the outside. So we're going to be referring to that frequently. So you're going to take one of your open rings and you're going to get the outside ring, the inside ring, one more inside ring but on the other side, and then that outside ring. We're going to close that. And I'll show you on the table about 4 or 5 times how to do it just not even touching the piece. That way you can get a handle on it before you try to put it in your hands. So you can see that the purple ring comes out to this second layer here. And so we want to, like the 4-in-1, bring in 4 rings for every one, just like we did this one. The one we just added has 4 edge rings in it. We're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to start with the last ones that we added. Add in the next row. There we go. Twist it around. Add in the one parallel to it. And again. We're going to be careful and we're going to pick that up. There we go. And close our rings. And we're going to pull it tight again, just so we can kind of pay attention to where we are. Once again, going to take that outside ring. This is the row that our last purple ring went to. And take that. We're going to grab the next row. Going to flip on our side. Get the next outside one. And then close the ring. Pull it tight again. And here we go. So, gonna pull that in. Get that next row. Get that next inside row. That's on our side. And then the outside row that's on our side. Now I'm using pretty large rings. These rings are to this ring size is to kind of give you a guide of how to do this. Once you get better and better at this, you'll be able to go smaller and smaller rings without having to think much about it. So this is the last one we'll do on the table. So once again, this is where our purple ring ends on this edge and this edge. So we're going to capture that one. Going to add in the next row. Going to come over to this side. We're going to flip up the one on our side. And flip up the next one. And close. There you go. So if you hold it up, this is what you'll see. You'll see that box on either side. Now, like I said, the colors aren't meant to make this look pretty, but it's just supposed to be a visual guide for you. So let's go ahead and hold this in our hand now. And so I am left-handed, so I do hold this probably a little backwards than the majority of you viewers, but we'll probably go a little bit, you can just mirror this on your side. So what you want to do, you want to pick it up in your hand, and you want to pinch those edges so they create that V pattern. So that V, V, over and over again. And so once again, we're starting with the rings that our last purple ring went through. And so that's this one here. And we're going to go through that outside. Going to capture the insides. Go through the outside again. Grip it tightly. And close. There we go. Hold it again. And we're going to repeat. So this purple ring went through this set last. So we're going to go through that one. Go through the following row. And then get the next one. There we go. So this is much easier when you have a 4-in-1 strand to start with. You of course don't have to, and we'll get towards that at the end. But the 4-in-1 makes it super easy. And we'll use the 4-in-1 as a reference guide for a lot of our weaves as we're going forward, just to help build them forward. Okay, so we close that one. Let's go ahead and do another. So let me get my big fat fingers out of the way. So we have that one. I'm going to grab these two. Grab that. And you're good to go. Remember, outside, inside, inside, outside. Those are the rings that you're trying to capture. So this is our outside, our insides, and then our outside ring. get another one of our closed rings. And so what you could do also is just kind of let that hang off the edge there. So we have our last purple one, pulling down and open our outside rings, which leaves our inside rings just kind of closed there. So you can just kind of bring that into the outside, loop in your insides pretty easily, and get your next outside ring. If you don't drop the piece like I almost did. There we go. Close that ring. Let's move on to the next one. So we're pinching that, we're creating our V, getting our outside ring, our two inside ones, and we're going to twist it around, and I'm just going to manually kind of put that up there. There we go. Perfect. Close that ring, and even if you let it go, drop it, throw it around, let the cat play with it, no big deal. All you have to do is pick it up. Once again, you can kind of see it flayed out. We're going to pinch that. Let our last purple one hang off. We're going to grab that outside ring, weave in those two inner ones, and we're going to just manually pick up, drop over our last outside ring. And so I'm just showing you a couple different ways you can do this. There's no right way or wrong way. You can, if you're still doing it on the table, that is perfectly fine. So we're going to bring in that outside, get our inside rings, twist it, flop over, good. So I'm going to pinch them all together because that's easier for me. We're going to grab that outside ring, bring on the inners, and grab that outer ring. There we go. Close it up. And we're starting to get close to the end here, so that's a good sign. It doesn't take too long when you already started half the weave, right? Alright, so once again, let me drop my pliers over here. Yep, because you're probably not holding your pliers in your hand. Grab that outside ring, the two inner ones, weave in, grab that outer one again. Yeah, you don't have to hold your pliers in your hand. That takes a little bit of time and experience, so you can just set them down in between each one if you'd like. So you can see we're getting close to the end here. We're going to have to show you how to add without the 4-in-1 later. So we're going to pinch that again. Let me put down my pliers. Pinch it. Going to grab that outer ring, these two inner ones, and just go right through to the outer one. And so the way we're doing this is we're going right through what's called the eye of the ring. So you see here when we pinch it, our outer and our inner rings overlap like a Venn diagram here, and they create a little eye. And that's basically where we're throwing our purple ring right now, is right through that eye. So let me go ahead and put down those pliers again. There we go. We can try to show you this by hand. Kind of show you we're going right through the eye. That's all we're doing. That's going to be hard to do and hold the rings. The rings are slippery. So we just went right through that eye. Alright, and so now if you use that 4-in-1 that we used from the last video, you'll see that it shrunk a lot. And that's okay, that's what we expected. It's like putting it through the washing machine. So we have our bottom ridge here, that brown. Our edges are that pale yellow. And then we have our top ridge as that purple. And you can see it's a nice, lovely little box. Now, like I said, if you were using the bracelet from the previous video and it fit perfectly on your wrist, it probably does not fit perfectly anymore. So we're going to have to add some rings. So let's go ahead and grab some more and show you what it looks like adding from an existing box chain. All right, so we have our bracelet that we just got done making. That's a little short, and we're going to expand it. So I've chosen two different colors to expand it with. So we have red and yellow. That pale yellow is the same one that we had earlier. So you see here we have an extra ring. Just for the purposes of this tutorial and not complicating matters, we're going to go ahead and remove it. Let's go ahead and take that bugger off. There we go. And so now you see that we have a clasp on one end and clasp on this end and then two yellow rings on that end. And so now if you pick this up, you will find that it looks like the yellow rings, you imagine them as like a little mouth. This little V shape here is an open mouth and two yellow rings coming out of it. So you can kind of think of it either as an equal sign or maybe a tongue or something. So we have that. So we have our open mouth and our two rings hanging out of it. Let's see if I can open that. There we go. So our open mouth and our two rings. So let's go ahead and start by adding two rings on the end. So I'm choosing to alternate my colors. So I'm going with red just for visual clarity. You can use the same silver rings that you were using before or whatever color you were using. And so there you go. So now we have our open fish mouth, our tongue, and our little red blob on the end, or an equal sign and a zero is the way I'm going to refer to this in the future. It's just an equal sign and a zero hanging off of it. We're going to fold that equal sign over, and we're going to open that, or we're going to fold the two zeros over. So our two end rings are going to fold over, and we're going to open that equal sign to be like a mouth. So we're going to just open that up there. And so you can see that the red rings are sticking out at the end there. And we're going to attach two yellow ones right there. Now, of course, if you don't have your pliers in your hand, that's perfectly fine. We're going to take one of our yellow rings. We're going to pull that yellow ring that we just attached there. Attach it over the red rings again. Pick up our pliers. Like I said, there's no wrong way to do this. You can have it on the table, you can do it in your hand, doesn't matter. So now we have yellow rings. The next thing to do is to add our red rings, right? So we have our little open fish mouth sticking out its little yellow tongue there. So we're going to close these red rings over. I guess it'd be easier if I use the pliers so you guys could see what's going on here. There we go. Alright, so we have our two red rings sticking out. And we're just going to fold them over, under and over. Part that yellow mouth there. You can see, if we kind of hold it up here, that we have a little open fish mouth and a red mouth there. So we just folded over which ones? The red ones, right? So because I'm using alternate colors, that means that we go to the yellow. Open that up. And weave it in. And then close it. And then let the other one follow suit. just going to leave it in there. Close it right up. Okay, so there's only one way to go when there's just two rings sticking off the edge like that. All you can do is add two to the edge. There's one. And here, add it the same way. There's two. Okay. And now that there are two little circles, two little zeros hanging out on the end here, we have to fold those over. Open up our fish mouth. Add on our little tongue there. So our second part of the tongue there. And so now that our tongue's sticking out, right? So we've got here. We're going to go ahead and add on our little red rings here. So we're adding our zeros. Adding our zeros. And now that we have the zeros, we fold those over. And they become that nice pink fleshy bit of the fish mouth. We're going to open that mouth up and add in our tongue, right? And so we're just going to continue doing this over and over until we get the length we want. Now, for your benefit, I'm not making this to any particular length. We're just going to continue doing this until I run out of rings over here. So, once again, you have your little fish tongue, right? And so we're going to add two red rings. Added benefit of having me go until I run out of rings is that you don't have to pause and rewind this video over and over again, like I had to when I got started. Okay, so what do we see? See our circles, our little zeros. We're going to fold them over. They're going to become the fleshy bits of our little fish mouth. We're going to open that fish mouth up. There's our fleshy bits. Add in that yellow. There we go. Take another ring. Gonna push it through. And we're gonna close it. Remember, you don't have to keep your pliers in your hand. That's just a habit that I've picked up, and I'm gonna try to put them down in between. That way they're not poking you in the face while you're watching this video. And then we're gonna pick up another red one, because that's our fish mouth sticking out its tongue, right? So we're gonna hook that little red one on. Then we're going to hook another one. There we go. What do we have? We have our little fish mouth and our two zeros over here. So we're going to fold those over. We're going to open up those yellow rings on the end to be our fish mouth. So our red ones are the inner portions of our fish mouth. And we're going to hook in that yellow one, giving that fish a tongue. And don't get me wrong, these analogies are silly, but that's what they're meant to be. Just so that when you're looking at it, you know what you're looking for. So once again, we have our lovely little fish mouth sticking out our tongue, right? So let's go ahead and hook a red one on here. Oops, dropped it. That's okay. Now we're going to close that up. Let's add in another one. drop my pliers, add it, close it. All right. We have our fish mouth, our tongue, and our 2 zeros, right? So let's go ahead and fold those 2 zeros over. Open up our fish mouth, and those 2 zeros now become the inner red portion of our fish mouth. Let's add the tongue. So 1 ring at a time. That's all we're doing. Now I pre-opened my rings just for the purpose of this video, but you can either leave them closed, you can open them as you need them. You can use the 1 ring at a time philosophy and do this as you go. Like I said, there's no wrong way or right way. So we have our fish mouth sticking out its little tongue there. Let's add a little bit of red. Close that. Let's get some more red. And close that. Alrighty. So, if you're following along, we have our open fish mouth, our tongue right here, and our 2 little zeros on the end there. So we're going to fold that over. Open up our fish mouth. Oh, come on, cooperate. There we go. Open up our fish mouth big and wide. Add in our 2 rings. Adding in our 2 rings. All right. Let's go ahead and now that we have our little fishy mouth sticking out its tongue, time to add our zeros on the end here. There we go. Perfect. So, fish mouth, our tongue, and our zeros over here. So, we have our zeros on the end, and you can tell if you hang it upside down, they just kind of hang there. So, time to fold them back. Open up our closed little fish mouth. And let's add another yellow in here. Okay, and this will be the last bit that we do. There you go. Added in our second one, and it looks beautiful. So here we go. So here we have our bracelet. It's not the prettiest thing in the world because of my color choices, but I assume yours is gorgeous. So to finish this off, let's do us a favor and let's go ahead and add just a couple of rings on the end here. And this is going to give us a more adjustable. And as you can see just now, I accidentally picked it up a little wrong. You might have this happen to you, where we have our red, and then all of a sudden it doubles up on one end. Nothing wrong, we didn't mess up. All we need to do is flip it over, and voila. And so what we're going to do right now is going to actually help avoid that in the future. So let's take a couple red rings. Put down my pliers so they're not stabbing you in the face. So I don't know why, but I'm very partial to the number 4 for chainmail. So we're going to add 4 little red rings on the end. And this is just going to give us an adjustable chain. You could have easily done this on the 4-in-1. We didn't go over that on the 4-in-1, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and get these added. I am doing this kind of in tandem here, but you can do this by setting them down and opening them first. Okay, there you go. So we have 4 little adjustable rings, and then where our clasp was, you see we have that brown and that purple on the end because we were working with that 4-in-1, and we just went ahead and continued on going. So let's actually go ahead and take that clasp off. Once I find where it closed off at, there we are. I'm gonna open that up, close, take off that clasp, close the ring. We're just gonna add one more ring here, just so it closes up and acts nicely. So have those 2 rings, right? So now we're at the other end. So we have our little fish mouth and our little tongue sticking out here. It's a little multicolored tongue. It must be one of those muttfish. And we're going to add our clasp, add our ring, and there we go. Like I said, it's ugly on my end, but that's because of my poor color choices, but I'm sure yours looks beautiful. And so now, there you are, your very own box chain. Now, naturally, you could extend this on forever, make this a necklace, make it a body chain, whatever you feel like. But thank you for joining, and let's see that outro.
Thank you for watching the video. If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit that like button, and then leave us a note in the comments about what you would like to be able to see in the future. And then, subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified the moment your suggestion goes live. Remember, YouTube is not our only social media outlet, so check us out in other areas, and we look forward to seeing you out there. Have a good day.